Hey guys, it's Landon. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I had some technical difficulties with the mic and all this. We had a new computer and it was all kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, I think I got it all working now. But I was thinking about videos to do, and today I think it was yesterday, I started on the slideshow just to briefly, basically just talk about kinds and give like a basic definition of biblical kinds and just go over that. I thought it'd be something interesting to discuss. That's one of my favorite topics is biblical kinds. So I just thought, yeah, I'll just make a slideshow. I mean, it's not really arguing very much. It's not really making an argument, I would say, but I mean, it's just kind of describing kinds and showing examples of their variability and their diversification. So yeah, I made a slideshow, so I'll share my screen. Let's see. Okay. It says it's sharing, so all right. Let's see. Present. Just the varying variability of kinds on the front slide or first slide. Those are two different types of harvestmen, and the bottom is, believe it or not, those two probably are of the same kind. It's a tiny pink fairy armadillo and the extinct glyptodont. I know it looks kind of crazy for them to be related, but it seems to show, or DNA evidence seems to indicate that they actually are. So I thought that was interesting. So let's start. So what are kinds? I believe that the original kinds were templates, or basically starting point groups of organisms with enough built-in variability to speciate and result in diverse versions of the original kind. They're first mentioned in Genesis 1:11 when God creates plants according to their kind. They're mentioned afterwards too during the creation account. Um, to provide an example related to my definition, I will say that most or all felids can trace their origins back to a common ancestor created on day 6 of the creation week. Yeah, cats have diversified greatly over the millennia. The lions, house cats, and everything in between are still of the same kind. No kind can evolve into another kind. There are limits as to how far the kinds can be stretched before the problems occur. A famous example, would be dogs and how exceedingly large and small dogs are prone to health problems due to inbreeding and the size, and it just being stretched beyond its limit, basically. Beyond, there is a limit for how far a kind can go before there are pretty devastating consequences, basically. And I thought this was funny. That's actually a picture of my fiance's Chihuahua that she just completely hated me for a few days before she finally got used to me. But yeah, that's for Wolf to Chihuahua, talking about variability. Thought that was kind of funny to put that picture on there. Okay, kinds of Noah's flood. Kinds are mentioned during the creation account. They're also mentioned later in Genesis 6:19 through 20, using the NASB, states, "And every living thing of all flesh you shall bring two of every kind into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female, of the birds according to their kind, and of the animals according to their kind, of every crawling thing off the ground according to its kind. Two of every kind will come to you to keep them alive." And then Genesis 7:2 through 3 states, "You shall take with you 7 pairs of every clean animal, a male and his female, and 2 of the animals that are not clean, a male and his female. Also of the birds of the sky, 7 pairs, male and female, to keep their offspring alive on the face of the earth." So
And then, as a little side note, if you're thinking that these two sets of verses contradict one another, uh, the screenshots from Answers in Genesis article title is written by Tim Chaffee. It's titled, "Did Noah Bring 7 or 14 Clean Animals onto the Ark?" And if you want to read that, you can. It's just saying that, no, it's not a contradiction, that those two verses that I provided. So I wanted to include that. And kinds and their variability. I believe that photo is also from Answers in Genesis, I believe, that originated with them. The next slide, I'll present some examples of kinds and their wide-ranging variations. And some of these variations are, quite significant. It's not always just minor stuff. It can be pretty significant differences, but I don't believe it's a problem. I believe that the variability was built in. I know Standing for Truth has gone over that time and time again. But today I'm just going to show some examples, and I do believe that some kinds probably have less diversity, genetic variability than others. I do think that that's kind of apparent from what we view today, and if we view the fossil record. I don't know exactly how much they vary, but I do believe there are different levels of, or different kinds have different levels of genetic variability, because some kinds are much more diverse than others. So that's just my take on it. Some people might agree with me, but yeah, that's my take. So start with a dragonfly slash meganura slash damselfly kind, and the meganura is at the top. Of course, I believe that was the largest insect ever, or at least one of the largest. I'm not going to look that up right this second, but it was basically a giant dragonfly. Of course, they say it was living millions of years ago, but basically the body plan is about the same, is or very similar to the modern dragonflies. And then there's the damselfly on the bottom right, which I'm not going to guarantee it, but I believe that they're all of the same kind based on similarities in fossil evidence. And just as it continued, I always thought their eyes were they're basically like interesting, mysterious, kind of like intriguing and cute, if you want to put it that way, for like the damselflies and dragonflies. It's like they have a lot of personality. It's kind of funny. Fossil record indicates that dragonflies have changed very little since the when they first appear in the fossil record, with the Meganura being a sort of ancient giant ancestral dragonfly. My guess is that the damselflies are a bit of an offshoot that resulted from early program diversification, either before or after the flood. But that's the damselfly, I believe, on the left, and dragonfly on the right. Next is my personal favorite, and I always love discussing these. I've had for years, the harvestmen, if you want plural. This is another example of a kind that shows stasis within the fossil record with little variation. I mean, I'm sure there's some, but that's expected. If you go by an old Earth timeline, harvestmen have actually been in stasis for, allegedly, of course, 410 million years or more. So they're if the older scenario is true, they're an extremely old, ancient order. Very old arachnids, and they have not changed much at all during that huge amount of time, which is just insane to think that would be the case. That, I mean, if evolution was the case, or was true, I just don't see them being in stasis to that extent for that long. It just doesn't seem realistic to me.
if evolution was possible, it doesn't seem like they would be in stasis because that's a very long time. I mean, that's if you just think about it, I mean, that's way way back. So, but yeah, the earliest fossils the early harvestman fossils resemble their modern day counterparts. Obviously, harvestmen are not spiders, but they're actually arachnids. They also aren't venomous, is an old urban legend claims basically the legend is that they're actually they're most venomous spiders in the world, but their fangs are like too weak to pierce human skin or something like that. But no, they're not spiders. They don't have venom. They're not dangerous. They look kind of like spiders, but they're not spiders. They have a nickname called Granddaddy Longlegs. Their entire order is comprised solely of harvestmen, and I believe that in this case, the scientific order classification is the exact equivalent of a kind, because the harvestmen or just remain harvestmen, and there's variations of harvestmen, but they're all same order, same kind. Obviously, they all have a common ancestor, and they've spread out and diversified over time. And as strange as this may seem, I do believe that they're beautiful animals, and some may look creepy. Despite their sometimes sinister look, they're actually harmless, as I said before. I actually like spiders too. I think that they're actually misunderstood. They actually do help keep pest levels down, and they're actually not like ants or other. I know I'm getting off track here, but I do like talking about it. They're not. Most of them do not, or most spiders do not bite very easily. You really have to provoke them or threaten their life to get them to bite. So, don't be too afraid of spiders. They're not seeking to harm you or anything. God created them for a reason, and I believe part of the reason in this fallen world is to keep pest populations from getting out of control, keeping everything in balance and in check. But no, harvestmen, they don't bite. They're not a threat to people at all, even though might look a little creepy to some people. Here's some photos of harvestmen, which I really think the one on the bottom right looks the coolest because I always like the red and black, or that's more like red orange and black combination. I really like that. I also like I like all of them. The one on the top left or something. We've had those in our area. Live in Georgia, but we haven't really seen them. I believe I saw them more as a kid. I don't know. We haven't necessarily seen them too much in my adult years. But yeah, there's just 4 different variations of that kind, and you can see that there is some pretty significant variation, but they are all harvestmen, and they've remained harvestmen for allegedly 410 million years. So, but yeah, I really think they're cool. I think they're a good example of stasis in the fossil record. I think they can strike a good blow, to evolution, because their fossil record history and their modern diversification matches with what we would think about kinds. There is the variation. You can see the variation, but their whole fossil record, their whole history, they're all harvestmen, and they've remained that way. There seems like there's a bit of a limit, to how far they go. I do believe they have the programmed variability, but but they remain harvestmen. So I think that they're a good example of kinds and good evidence for creation. So we'll move on to the next slide. I got a few more examples. The armadillo kind. Now this is kind of a more shocking example of just how far the kind diversification and variation can go. The pink fairy armadillo at the top left is in the same kind as the giant extinct glyptodont, top right. And as you can see, there's huge differences in size, bone structure, but they have done genetic analysis, and basically the glyptodonts were giant armadillos. So it's very likely that they're the same kind. It's crazy. It is kind of crazy to think about it, but I was looking for more of the pink fairy armadillo photos, but I'm assuming that they're not really. I don't think they have a lot of contact with people because they didn't have a whole lot of photos of them. Of course, you probably the one armadillo on top right is probably the one you've seen the most. That's one of the more common variations. And this is the final example. Mustelidae or but Mustelidae. Yeah, I know I might not be pronouncing it right, but I tried. But yeah, this is one of the kinds that also. I believe that this is another order, and I believe that most of these would be of the same kind, but I'm not going to guarantee it. But members of this kind would include weasels, badgers, ferrets, otters, martens, minks, and wolverines. So it's kind of crazy to think that the small, like little weasels and ferrets are in the same kind as the pretty deadly, big, dangerous wolverines, which is kind of interesting to me because I don't like what I kind of thought this when I was in college. I kind of came to this conclusion that some kinds there was a lot of significant and rapid diversification, and some kinds have a lot of variability and they diversify greatly. I don't think that's a problem for creationism or anything, but I do think there is significant variation, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I think it fits with the young earth worldview and paradigm. So yeah, there's that kind. So basically, the ferrets you can buy at a pet store are probably just very small, well, related to wolverines, which are very dangerous hunters. They're supposed to be very, very difficult to tame. They're supposed to be like one of them. Wolverines are supposed to be like one of the most difficult animals to tame for some reason, which is interesting. What's also kind of ironic is that wolves actually sometimes fight with. I believe they can prey on wolverines, but obviously wolves were not too hard to tame because we have all the dogs today. So the more tame is killing, the less tame, I guess. So in conclusion, yes, creationists do accept diversification, speciation, and common descent. However, we don't accept universal common descent. We believe that there are limits for how much the organism can change. I believe that the fossil record shows limited common descent. You have animals that appear abruptly, and you have some variation, diversification, but everything appears at a starting point. And I just don't believe that there's enough evidence to show that anything or to indicate that universal common descent is true. I think that a lot of species do show up abruptly in the record, and there's not, just because there's genetic similarity, I don't think that's enough to say for a fact that that's true. I know this is a argument atheists hate usually, but it's not irrational or unfair to suggest that God did reuse some elements and some components and design patterns, so it's not far-fetched for a creationist, to accept. There's not a problem for them to accept that, we got genetic similarity of bacteria and bananas and harvestmen. I mean, because a good engineer is going to repeat designs. I mean, and basically another reason is that God just did it because he wanted to, that he created everything with similarities because that's just how he wanted to do it. So final thoughts. I really love doing these kinds of videos, and the kinds are one of my favorite creation related topics. I just thought it would be fun to make a basic video describing kinds, what they are, and providing some examples of their variability. Um, I hope to cover some more topics soon. I've already covered a while back, early last year, I covered one of the other topics that I like, which is the going over intelligence in microorganisms, which is may surprise some people how intelligent they are. And all my sources were secular. I didn't use anything from a creationist source, but the sources were agreeing that they're smarter than people realize. Even viruses, which aren't even considered to be alive. But I've already covered that, so I don't really think I'm going to make another video on that. I, like I said, majored in psychology, and the psychology kind of came into play with my last video when I had my other video where I talked about the emergent software conundrum. So I'm not entirely sure what my next video will be. I might do one more specifically on stasis, examples of stasis in the fossil record. I kind of touched on that here, but if I do it in another video, the whole video will be about stasis and lack of evolution, basically. So yeah, that was it for this video. I just thought it would be a fun thing to discuss. I like talking about these things, and I always like biology and zoology and learning about animals. And I mean, I've loved that type of stuff ever since I was like a toddler, basically. So let me see. Okay. All right. I'm hoping the volume. I think everything works well. I know that some stuff has gone awry for me time and time again, and it's just crazy sometimes. But I was just checking, make sure the volume was doing right. But yeah, I'm thinking that my next video might be on stasis. It'll probably be about the same length as this one, maybe a 15 to 30-minute video, something like that. But yeah, I might still do some video game uploads too, here and there. I guess you can ignore those or look at them, whichever you want to do. The reason I didn't create another channel for it is because I really didn't want to. I kind of am like a minimalist, and I just already had this channel, and I was just like, I don't want to have like 2 or 3 channels. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just upload the clips here. So I don't know how many of SFT's audience or my subscribers are, into video games, but I mean, yeah, if you want to just let that pass you by, that's fine. But there haven't been a lot of games coming out lately, so you probably won't see a whole lot of video game clips and uploads. Probably see more creation related content. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess this concludes everything. I just thought it'd be nice to do this type of video. I like interacting with everybody. I like, getting to talk about things I want to talk about. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And I will see you next time. God bless.